I'm joined by Ted DiBiase Jr. right now. You know him from his work in WWE. He has a new business venture. It's called 16 Creative, where they're helping heroes and legends tell their stories online. We're going to talk about that. Some stuff from your wrestling career. How you doing today?
Yeah, man, it's doing well, buddy. Appreciate you having me on, and thanks for skipping it back a day. Kids, man, they're crazy, but
Absolutely.
doing well.
Yeah, mine are back in school, but today's their like at home learning day. So
Yeah,
uh, I hear you. We'll just leave it at kids.
yeah, kids.
Um, well, I wanted to start with 16 Creative. I've been seeing it advertised on Facebook, on social media. It's a new venture, and actually, Junkyard Dog was announced last night, I believe. He's
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
estate signed on to be represented by the brand. So, can you talk about how the two sides came together and what you're hoping to accomplish, not only with the DiBiase
Sure,
name, but Junkyard Dog and maybe some of the other prospective
sure.
people?
Yeah, absolutely. For some context, this came about. I'm so honored and excited, humbled to work with a couple of my heroes. These are combat veterans, David Keller and Jared Ashley. David's a Marine. Jared is a Navy veteran, and Jared was a pretty successful country music singer too. We hooked up at a charity golf tournament up in Akron, Ohio, raising money for a children's hospital up there. And so, anyway, David is one of the guys that was helping him manage his stuff online, and he does that for a lot of artists in Nashville and the country music scene. And we got to talking, and we just really haven't done well at all, or had any success online. And so they were like, man, let's talk. And we got to talk one day about my dad's stuff, and I'm like, yeah, the $1 Million Man could be like a Betty White. He really just needs to be revised and brought to life, and really do him the credit that he deserves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the goal, was to help him, really monetize his brand, and the platform he built, not just monetize, but also promote what he's invested in and what he's doing today, and his ministry work, and the great work that he does. And so uh, it just turned into a business venture. We're like, well, we could do this. There's so many other guys that need this once they leave WWE or wrestling. It's like, well, what now? There's the signings and the bookings, but in this day and age, everything lives online. And so they're really good at, you know, product development, and the design, and really creative, and have additional team, and access to resources that we could do this for a lot of people, and not just in the wrestling world, but in the sports world as well. So, I think we're talking to some football players, a basketball player, in the NBA, and guys that are retired. And so, because that older generation, like my dad's age, they're like, "What's Twitter?" I mean, some of them, they get it, but as far as how to capitalize on that, and build campaigns, and they're just not going to do it. So we want to do that for them, so their legacy lives on. They can have a life outside the ring, more successful, more engagement with the fans, enhance their communities, give more access to them, and more opportunity for them as well. And so, and then when they're gone, God forbid, like a Junkyard Dog, who, I don't know if you know this, but he was my dad's best man at him and my mom's wedding.
Mm.
And so it's a really cool story. God bless his soul. He passed away, fell asleep in a car, at the wheel, and leaving his daughter's graduation years ago. But he's still a known name, anybody who's a true fan and knows that era, watched my dad in Mid-South days, and I mean, they know JYD. And so we just want to do it justice. We want to give his family something that they can be proud of, and tell the story and build community. And there's a lot of guys that really love JYD. And he was an incredible entertainer and wrestler, but, incredible father, man, as well. And so we're excited to be able to do that. It's a way to serve. That's what these guys, I love working with them because that's what they're all about. They serve, they protected our country, and now we're protecting the legacy and the names of guys that sometimes feel left behind, so that's kind of the overview. And there's a lot of guys that we have, that we'd love to get going soon and partner with. And so we'll see. We got some announcements in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If anybody wants to check it out, it's 16creative.com. The number 16 spelled out, not the number, but your dad's on there. You're on there. Lee Ermey is on there. Jim McMahon. And it breaks down how the partnership came together. It's the wrestling collection, the military collection. So I think it's a really cool initiative. It really caught my eye. It's what you just shared, the story, the meaning, personal meaning behind it is really cool to see, but it looks great as well. You also have a new website. It's $1,000,000son.com. Just talk about, bringing the wrestling side of you back, because I know you retired and you left for personal reasons, and you kind of said your priorities shifted, and being a dad, like, I totally can relate to. Family comes first, but what made this the right vehicle to kind of revisit that for you? Because right before the announcement, you made sure to say, like, okay, I'm not returning to the ring. It's not that, but it's still cool to kind of see you dip your toe back in this way. So what kind of went into that decision, just to kind of revisit Ted DiBiase Jr., the wrestler?
Well, this was, since I left, I've been fairly quiet. I've definitely stayed away from the ring, obviously. Personally, I think it goes way back, and for the reason that I left was to be a father. That was because I didn't have one growing up. I mean, my dad's still here, but I didn't have one present, and so I think there was some almost, subconscious bitterness. It wasn't like a direct bitterness. It was just like, I got to get away from this, and then I had to recreate myself. Right. I was like, well, if I'm not the wrestler, who am I? So I went through this like identity crisis when I first left wrestling. And even at the end of my career, I was like, well, still, I was struggling to find, who am I? What's this next character? We had all this success with, legacy. And then it was like the next day they put the belt on me, and I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't really me, but let's roll with it. And then, tried kind of just being me. We did the DiBiase posse, and, the tailgate parties, and that's me. I'm a laid back guy. But it was just trying to find who am I? And then leaving there, I was trying to find that, but also figure out, well, how the heck am I going to make a living? And so that really, I chased a lot of things, man, and made a lot of mistakes, bad business partners, and, just didn't understand. It wasn't bad business partners, really just not knowing how to protect myself and really not knowing what I was doing. But that's how you learn. You know, you don't just jump out there in a wrestling ring and have a 5-star match. It takes, you know, years of practice and hours and a lot of pain, you know, so it's had to go through that even when I left. And I had the same desire though to prove myself. And, kind of like I did in wrestling. It was like I had this dream of becoming a wrestler like my dad and wrestling WrestleMania. And I did that and, you know, got to film a movie and I hit all these goals. And then I was like, well, I gotta do that again, but somewhere else. And it wasn't any one thing that I was attached myself to. It was just kind of like whatever opportunities came to me, I was like jumping at it, you know, that FOMO type attitude. I don't want to miss out. And I need something to come in, you know, because this money that I've saved up, it's gonna go away soon. I wasn't making the Top Guy money, you know. So I about 2.5 years and started. My wife had to go back to work, and that was a pride thing. I was ashamed, which shouldn't have been, but I was also being selfish, trying to do too much. I was making risky decisions and ultimately got really depressed. And, you know, we lost a child October 21st in 2015. And I think part of me kind of blamed wrestling. I kind of regretted, like, why did I leave? Maybe I should have stayed. You know, and I'd almost lost my wife that day as well. And that was a big turning point for me. And so, anyway, then I kind of was like, okay, you know, buckle down. Who are you? You know, like instead of serving self, instead of serving Teddy, you know, I'm gonna serve other people because, you know, I mean, before I started wrestling, I was gonna be a missionary, bro. Like I love Jesus. I'm not pushing on anybody, but like I'm a man of faith, and so that. I had to make that the essential part of my life again, you know? And so my core values are faith, family, love, wisdom, service, in that order. And so what wrestling did for me, what I realized in hindsight, you spend a lot of time focused on yourself. You know, it's like there's camaraderie and there's a locker room, and I miss my brothers. I mean, I got wonderful people there that I love and, you know, miss dearly, but it's really all you're focused on yourself. Just 24/7. How can you improve? Climb the ladder, grab, you know, the brass ring or whatever. What I realized that, you know, the medicine I needed to begin healing, you know, this mental health issue I had, depression and anxiety, which I was trying to cope with alcohol and just becoming something and somebody I was not, and I didn't want to be, or I didn't want that to be the example for my kids or you know. My character, you know, and so that's that. I started serving my dad's ministry and doing stuff here, doing sports camps, and anyway, long story short, I you know, worked a couple different jobs, one in the insurance world, and I started networking and doing leadership training, and that was awesome. That was like pouring into other people, you know, and doing personal development training, and that's become a passion of mine, you know. And so really it's, I'll tell you, the favorite part of my career at WWE was being a spokesperson for the Army National Guard. And, man, I loved going to those bases and those hospitals, which we were only required to go for a couple hours and paid to do it. But I mean, I'd stay forever because when I was around them, you know, it reminded me of what matters. And it reminded me that I wouldn't be doing that without them, you know, protecting us and sacrificing their lives and losing brothers and, you know, and families losing fathers and mothers and them losing limbs and, you know, these baddest dudes on the planet on Monday, and then Tuesday they're sitting in Walter Reed blown up with missing 2 legs or burned, and, you know, it just put things into perspective. And so when this came along, these guys wanted to help me. You know, my buddy Jared, we were talking about doing some other stuff together, and he's like, why don't we get y'all like back? Why don't you get connected with the wrestling community? That's who you are. I'm like, that's not me, you know, and I've tried to run from it. And honestly, thinking about it, it is my world. It's what, you know, Bible says, whatever work you find to do with your hands, do it with all your heart. Right. I felt so alive in that wrestling ring, and I loved being with the fans. I loved connecting with them. I missed that so much, man. And so that community and just it was just that, you know, those 5, 10, 15 minutes you're out there, whether you're in the ring or you're, you know, watching it on TV or you're in the crowd, it's like, you're forgetting about all the bad stuff or the worries and the stresses, like, especially in today's time. Right. So, but also I loved putting a smile on people's faces. I couldn't believe that when I went into a children's hospital that I could light up a room. And, you know, it's, as bad as it hurt, there was this unsurmountable joy, you know, that I also felt, and that you can't put a price on. You know, that was priceless. And so Jared and David and I started talking. They're like, man, we could do this for more guys. And I'm like, I'm in, because I'm tired of seeing my dad and these guys that, you know, work so hard, beat the crap out of themselves, sacrifice so much time away from their families, you know, to be on the road to once they leave, it's just like they're on their own. I mean, when you're there, you know, it's not hard. You got to show up at the airport on time. You got to show up at the building on time. You got to execute your job in the ring and stay in the gym, stay in shape. It's hard. I don't want to minimize it being hard, but people take care of you too. Somebody's booking your flights and stuff. And when you're going overseas, you just get on the bus and you follow the sheep, right? You follow the herd wherever they go. And but when you get out, you know, these guys that spent 20 something years in the business, like my dad, they don't know how to, you know, they don't know how to market themselves. That's what WWE does. They do it better than anybody in the world. You know, it's a marketing machine, and it's a multi-billion-dollar company and global brand, and they build brands. That's what they do. And so these guys have a name though, and there's part of those characters, yes, that WWE owns, but and we have to. I would love to work with WWE one day on this. Just, hey, let us take care of the guys when you're done with them, you know, so they don't feel like, well, you know, they made money off of us and they only paid us 0.0007% royalties, and we're out there doing all this work, and, you know, like, show some love for those. It's like veterans, you know, it's like, man, how do we take care of these guys afterwards? And same with football players or baseball players, you know, that find their identity in a sport and have never really prepared for what's next, because the average life of a typical wrestler is 5.2 years. And I think it's around the same for an NFL football player. Mm-hmm. And this is what they work for. You know, this is what they dream of doing all their life. Well, they don't dream of like getting hurt or getting fired and then having to like figure out, well, how do I book myself? How do I build a website? How can I make more money? You know, when they've got this fan base and people that love them and adore them and just want to talk to them and that they can, you know, make happy by, you know, communicating with or providing, you know, some products. And so that's the vision. And that's what I see. It's really about serving these guys and, you know, guys that feel maybe lost, because we're prideful too. And we have egos. You leave, you don't want to ask for help. You know, you're this big, macho, successful person that everybody sees on the outside. But the truth is, man, when you get done, there's this moment of like, oh man, I love the real world, and this is nice, and I can breathe, and there, you know. But then it's kind of daunting if you don't have somebody there to show you how to do what's next, or provide opportunity for you, and so, I'll stop there, man. That I am passionate about it, and that was like for me. Uh, okay, I am supposed to be. This is what the Lord's given me, and He also says, whatever work, work as though you're working for the Lord, not for man. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my life now, and it's not about Teddy anymore and being successful. Success for me is making these guys successful and proud and having something to leave behind for their family and a legacy piece, and also reconnecting with the fans and building these communities will be so much fun, and I love people. That's the best part. So
yeah, and it's I will say it's great to see you're at a place where you want to embrace it and want to come back, and you're doing it. It's a selfless thing. You're trying to set them up because, as you said, a lot of these guys, like, they didn't have to deal with that, especially coming from like the 70s or 80s. And I mean, some of the guys even in the 90s, like, social media wasn't a thing. They have to learn how to adapt, and after decades of doing their way, maybe they don't know how to adapt. So I think this is a great project to kind of to learn about. And you mentioned I want to touch on the DiBiase posse, because after you were given the $1 million belt, that seemed like it was a genuine gimmick, and you said you're a laid back guy, and was that like, did that come from, like, I'm thinking along the lines of like you're from the Gulf Coast, like that Louisiana, Mississippi area, so like it's SEC football, it's that's kind of what it is.
That's
that
right.
Is that where the genesis was it from it?
100%. They say I was taught that some of the best characters are the guys that are really just themselves, but turned up and amped up, and that's me. I do love SEC football. I love to hunt and fish, and I cook all the time. So it's in fellowship. It's just, that's what we do here. It's faith, fun, fellowship, food, football, whatever. And that was me. And, it's nice. Like, I've been performing all my life, like since I don't know how old. And that's one thing I've also realized. And I love helping people that struggle with seeking approval or trying to prove themselves by becoming something that they're really not. That is so much work, bro, and you are missing out on so much productivity, efficiency, happiness, and joy. Just being who you are, who God created you to be, and being authentic. And when somebody doesn't accept you for who you are, that's okay. That's their loss. There's somebody else that does, and so, like, but yeah, that's where that generated from. Now, I wish I could have had, and that's the thing about WWE that they do, that when they get behind something, they can push it and they can build it. And I didn't really have any direction after the gimmick with the belt. And with the DiBiase posse, there wasn't opportunity. I'm not going to make excuses. It's that's a whole business. It didn't revolve around me. I was an employee. I was there to do my job. And I'm not saying that in a way like, oh, nobody did anything for me. Was I angry? Yeah, at times, because I wanted it. I'm hungry. I'm freaking a hard ass worker, and like, I was like, teach me. And so, again, that's what we want to do for guys now. But yeah, that I wish I could have had more of a chance there. Hey, I'm not trolling. I'm just saying I wouldn't be opposed to going back one more time. I would miss it. I mean, I miss it so much. But I don't see that happening at all. Um, but just doing this alone and seeing my dad back on TV, and how much fun and us having conversations, it's been like, oh man, it's creeping back in. It's just once it's in you, it's in you, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not the first and probably not the last to say, like, I hear people talk about, oh well, I never said the word retire, and it never leaves
Right.
you. And you just mentioned like you're seeing your dad on TV now. One thing I thought of was I not too long ago spoke with Mike Rotunda. He was doing a signing. I think he might no, it was okay, so it was separate appearances, but your dad did one and then Mike did one related. But
Yeah.
we kind of both agreed that money's timeless, and the tax man, the villain aspect of the tax man's coming to collect, it always works. And I know you said that you didn't want the $1 million title, that wasn't you, but is there a way that it did work for you, like looking back at it as a positive? And maybe is there a way that the belt coming back, like obviously people remember it with, they look back at it fondly, but is there something like it did for you as a positive that it could maybe help whatever plans they have for it? I don't really know one way or another, but any kind of positive spin you would put on it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I absolutely. You know, the it was. I didn't own it, and that was all on me. I didn't own what they gave me the opportunity to own. And that's called immaturity, and stupidity. You get an opportunity, you take it. I just didn't make it my own, because that was my dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did everything I could on the way up. I didn't go straight to WWE. That wasn't my first contract, like some other guys I know that are sons of wrestlers. Yeah, and then I went to Harley Race. I've worked 4 jobs chasing my dream. In Eldon, Missouri, waking up at 5:37 a.m. every morning, 4:37 a.m. every morning. To go cut 18 fairways, and I'd leave there and go to the Hy-Vee grocery store and stock produce, and then I would leave there, go train 4 days a week for 4 hours, which then right after that I'd get a workout every night. 5 nights a week, I'd sweep and mop the gym floor at 11:30 p.m. for free membership there. And then on the weekends, I was folding underwear and T-shirts at the Polo Factory Outlet Mall by Lake of the Ozarks for an entire year. And I'm a college graduate, with a business administration degree, and wondering, will this work? Can I do it? Will I make it? And nobody's there to wake me up, get me out of bed, and tell me don't quit, which I wanted to so many times because we trained like Japanese train. We did 1,000 squats every day, and gosh, that gives me PTSD. But and I wouldn't trade that for the world because it showed me what's in me, what I've got inside me, So anyway, when that happened, it was like that was so. Nobody could say that I rode my dad's coattails, So getting the belt almost immediately, it wasn't the sense of pride that I would take in it today, because I guess up until that point, I had done all I could to distance myself from being the $1 million man's son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which now, which I'm so proud to be, but I needed to know that I could do it, right? And so it was hard for me to own, but I could tell you right now that would be a different story today, and that there would be more pride and more understanding. With time comes maturity, and there's a lot of things I would have done different looking back, hindsight. But yeah, I could see positive. The positive is I know what I did wrong. I didn't make it my own, and until you do that, like it's just it's not going to work. Right. And so, but that's who I am. It doesn't define me. That's the difference. But it's part of me. And it's like not everybody's happy with every part of their life. Nobody can decide who their father or mother is or where they're born. You can't decide what you look like or how tall you are like somebody else did. Or, that just is not something you can control. And what you have to learn is you got to learn how to control the controllables. But with the uncontrollables, you got to learn how to respond to those. And everybody's got a choice. And I think we make like 84,000 choices a day, like I don't know how many of those are subconscious, but you got a choice to own who you are and be happy with who you are, operate in your strength zones and, quit trying to appease other people and appeal to other people or be something that you're not so that you're accepted by people that you really don't want to be around anyway, because they're not you, because they didn't accept the real you in the first place, or you had to be something that you weren't to become, welcomed by them. And that's the same with wrestling. It was like me trying to become something that I didn't, or me pushing something away, or, almost trying to like have this inner tug of war with me and the fan. I didn't want the fans to associate that with me. I wanted them to see me, be Ted DiBiase Jr., Theodore Marvin DiBiase Jr. And so, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the positive is, once we realize the weaknesses in our life, we can begin to fix them. And, you turn them into strengths. You do as much as you can to, improve our weaknesses, but you operate in your strengths and own what you got,
Yeah. I understand it on, some level. Like I'm named after my dad too. So I've always felt like, in a way, like, okay, I want to make myself stand out. But at the same time, you're come to a point where you're proud of like, okay, that's why I got my name and this is what I want to do with it. So, I get that. Obviously, you just went over, you share a name with him. That's a very important part of, the family in the wrestling business, but you're always linked to Cody and legacy in a way too. Like, what was that like, just jumping into that? Because that was, you still were Ted DiBiase Jr., but it was not as, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but like, it wasn't beating you over the head as much as it could have been, where it was, okay, this is Ted's kid and this is Dusty's kid. It was just, no, they're second gen or, multi-generation wrestlers, and that's the common tie. And then with Randy and what was that like? Did that make it easier for you to make your debut on TV? Did that make it more difficult?
Yeah, no, it totally made it easier. It's because it's a lonely road. Growing up in the spotlight and being the son of celebrity is not easy. Everybody's like, oh, that must have been so cool. Well, no, yes, there are parts of it that are, but I would say more of it is not, because, I got to watch my dad wrestle Hulk Hogan in Madison Square Garden, and, Andre the Giant picking me up by my head while he's sitting in a chair in the locker rooms. And that sounds fun, but, you go through life being the wrestler's kid or the son of the $1 Million Man, or, people know you, but they don't know you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so to be there, Cody was amazing. That was such a blessing. We got to ride together. We instantly had a common bond, and man, that dude, he showed me the ropes, and, it was like having a brother, and I have two brothers that we had dreams of wrestling together with, and being tag team champions, but that never happened because, they both suffered injuries. And, but that Cody was like having a brother on the road, and with Randy joining him, it just felt right. I don't know, dude, that legacy run was so much fun. And, I don't know. It just, you couldn't put your finger on it. It was just good. And it worked. And, that was, it was nice to not feel alone and feel like I finally found my place. And, it's a lot of hard work getting there and, turning a dream into reality and all that. And then getting to, experience that with those guys for that little amount of time in my life was cool. It made me realize the importance of brotherhood and camaraderie and being able to surround yourself with like-minded people and people that get you. We each understood what the other person went through. We had different lives and different places and, different parents, but we had a lot of similarities and, a lot of the same pressures to live up to a name, to, carry on a torch or a legacy, to, to not screw up. Mm-hmm. There's a magnifying glass on you when you come from a lineage. There's this like built-in expectation, whether it's other people putting it on you or just you putting it on yourself. You can't help it. It's just there. There's an expectation to be as good or better than the one before. And there's a lot of scrutiny that comes along with that, and so, that was really awesome to be able to step into that and have those guys, and it gave me comfort but it might have hurt me, it might have got me too comfortable. And, cause it kind of felt like it was just that was going to last forever. And then we were going to have this magical separation, and it was just, and then they had this plan for me, and like, surely you're not going to put all this time into us and build us up and put us in all these great, angles and then not have a plan. Well, there was no plan. Like WrestleMania, when we imploded and had our match, like I remember sitting out by the ring with Michael Hayes. He's like, "So Teddy, what do you want to do next?" I'm like, "Huh? What are y'all gonna do with me next?" I mean, I was so used to getting there every day. I got there, and then somebody handed me a script. You're in 2 segs. You're in 3 segs. You got this match. Here's your promo. And I thought that's how it worked, and that could have been a test to really just, show me that's not normal, just step in there and get spoon fed. That doesn't happen all the time. And, I don't know. It's funny reflecting on that. That's kind of, it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it hurt me, but I'm grateful for it because personally, I did learn a lot from it. Mm-hmm. And those guys, and they're killing it and crushing it. And, man, I love them. Miss those guys.
Is there a match, like, if I am putting you on the spot, whether it's from that era or just your career in general, that, maybe you want to be most remembered for, or one that particularly stands out in your mind is one that really represents, your best work, or just anything that stands out like that?
Oh, man. It's so funny. I've never watched myself, I've never watched. I did it first and I just hated watching my matches, but I remember, I loved wrestling Daniel Bryan, obviously. I think we had a pay-per-view match that was really good. I can't remember which one it was. But it was just a lot of fun, man. Crowd was into it, and, it was so easy and it was just awesome. would have loved to wrestle him more. And then there was one, I think it was when my dad actually came and was a GM. It wasn't really a wrestling match. It was a moment I had with Randy Orton. Me and Randy wrestled. I didn't fight back. They told me not to fight back. And this was a build up to WrestleMania. And, us building that tension of like, we're all going to go our separate ways. And that was cool, dude. It was theater, I didn't fight. It wasn't, this wrestling clinic. It was psychology. And I remember I just let him push me around and slap me, and I didn't fight back. And, and then finally, I turn around, I shove him, and I get in his face. And I'm getting chills talking about it. You could feel it. It was just like, oh, and they wanted it. They wanted me to just punch him in the mouth, And afterwards, it was so good that I was told I was going to wrestle John Cena on on this upcoming European tour we were going to have to get ready for a WrestleMania match against Randy. And it was going to be a singles at first. Mm-hmm. After that night, it changed. And it shouldn't have been a singles. It should have been a triple threat, but I didn't play backstage politics. I didn't have anybody like, in my corner, and that's very real. And so, not that I'm unhappy with how it turned out, but that match, that was a magical moment. I just missed that. And some of my favorite ones were with The Undertaker, but those were not televised overseas. And some of the triple threats we had with DX and Taker, and these sold out crowds across Europe. Oh my God, it was just so much fun. And we weren't, we didn't have a time limit, and we go out there and just have a blast for 30, 40 minutes, whatever we wanted to do. And wish some of those could have been on TV.
Mm-hmm. I think the pay-per-view match that you were talking about, it might have been Elimination Chamber. I think was it the U.S. title match?
Yeah,
okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that was at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
I gotta ask. I don't know if you're aware of it, but the Cody story at StarCast a couple years ago, where he said he told a story about how you were supposed to kick out and you didn't. Where's that referee? Are you trying to fuck on me?
Yeah.
Do you want to share your side?
Look, I'm just gonna say this: that dude, he will say something and beat a dead horse with it. That I may have said he tried to F me, but the I don't know where he got, he tried to F on me. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying not to cuss in front of the kiddies.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah, look, that dude knows how to blow something up. I think it's hilarious. It's probably a shot at me. He would do that all the time, and he'd make something up that somebody said, and he'd just scream it out nonstop in the locker room, and and then everybody would adopt it, and so. Yeah, I was pissed because I did kick out. You can go back and watch it, but we had a meeting that day. With the referees, they're gonna count you out if you don't kick out. And man, I did kick out. And this, I can't remember his name. What was his name? Little short guy. Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah, I was hot. Maybe I did. I was pissed. I said a lot of cuss words when I came through there. So, but Cody, a dude can tell a story. I can tell you, he can fabricate one too.
he's very much a promoter. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Hey,
is.
I had to ask whether it was the clean version for the kids or not. It's Starcast weekend. It was like 3 years ago, and that was like a huge thing that happened. But I thank you
That's fine.
for clarifying, and thank you for spending the afternoon
Yeah,
talking to me about your career and what you're up to. Like I said, I'm really excited to see what's next for you, for 16 Creative. Um, I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing. It caught my eye when I saw it. I figured it would be best to, reach out to you and try to catch up with you.
yeah,
I know you don't do too many interviews, so I really appreciate this. If people want to check it out,
yeah.
it's 16, the word spelled out, 16creative.com. When we share the interview, we'll put up some links, and stay tuned for what's next. Ted Sr.'s up there. You have Ted Jr. on $1 Million Son. As I mentioned, Junkyard Dog. It was just announced, so there's a lot rolling out from that.
Yep.
Thanks very much for your time, man, today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, bro, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me and reaching out. You definitely are the first, and I hope this will be first of many, and us staying connected in this crazy world of wrestling that I forgot how much I missed. So thank you for giving me a voice today. I appreciate it.